The story opens in a grand mansion, with a spoiled boy shoving his maids away. They plead for him to stop, calling him Young Master Hawk. He just cackles, telling the lowly maids they have no right to order him around. This is Hawk Gordo, the heir to the Gordo firm, and a total piece of pig shit. He crudely tells them their only value is in their bodies. The maids look on, disgusted, one whispering how troubling this is. But this story isn't really about him. It begins with a tired office worker, dark circles etched under his eyes. He leans on a public restroom counter, his hands clenched. He mutters to himself that he hates women. He's constantly mocked by his female coworkers for being unsociable and single. Slumped in a chair, he thinks to himself what a drag his whole life is. Walking home that night, he gets a text recommending a classic dating sim. His face twists in disgust. He is already sick and tired of women. He thinks that getting involved with them only ever leads to bad situations. A nearby billboard brightly flashes the words, "Let's fall in love." He stares at his feet, wondering how much longer he can go on. Suddenly, a pair of headlights blinds him. He freezes in the middle of the road, staring straight into the glare. A sickening crunch echoes through the night. As his life fades, he sees a message on his cracked phone screen. A friend's text, wishing for reincarnation into a game world. He opens his eyes. His vision is blurry. He sees a maid sitting by his bed and realizes this isn't a hospital. Before he can process it, a sharp pain jolts through him. Another maid grabs him, her face a mask of pure rage. She swings a club and sends him flying backwards off the bed. He tumbles uncontrollably down a long, ornate flight of stairs. He wakes up again, his head throbbing, his face covered in bandages. A maid informs him the attacker was arrested for attempted murder. He sits up, trying to sort through Hawk's memories and his own. He tells the maid his memory is foggy from the fall. Then he claims he's developed a phobia of women. Turning his back, he orders her to tell the police to drop the matter. Alone at last, he finally accepts the impossible truth. He's been reincarnated. Just then, a quiet knock comes from his bedroom door. A small girl with reddish hair peeks in, asking if he's okay. He recognizes her instantly. It's Mary, his stepsister from the game. He remembers her tragic backstory, left orphaned and terribly mistreated. He quickly shoves her into a closet just as his father bursts in. The large man smothers him in a hug, weeping about the terrible situation. Hawk pushes him away, telling him to calm down. He is different now. He jolts awake, clutching his head in the dark. The memory surfaces. The screech of tires, the impact. He was hit by a car. He died. Now he's reincarnated in the game world he knows well. As the villain Hawk Gordo, he walks his family's mansion. He sees the maids bowing, but knows their dark secrets. Some were his father's lovers, others abused by the original Hawk. He recalls a near-fatal accident on the grand staircase. This dangerous, corrupt place has to be purged. He runs to his father, fake tears streaming down his face. He wails that he wants every single maid fired immediately. His doting father, holding him close, instantly agrees. The shocked maids are told they're all dismissed. A long, dejected line of women files out of the estate. Later, his father puts a hand on his shoulder, a new worry on his face. He says firing the maids won't stop a determined assassin. He proposes a new plan, hiring personal bodyguards. Hawk is surprised, but his father is already enthusiastic. He's even given full authority to choose them himself. Hawk sighs, accepting his father's overbearing care for now. A few days pass. A crowd gathers outside for the bodyguard test. Beastmen, elves, and humans all wait anxiously for a chance. Hawk appears on a balcony with his head maid, Laurier. His voice is cold as he addresses the applicants below. He will first assess if they are worthy of his trust. He scans their faces, his gaze sharp and focused. Then he dismisses half the crowd with a simple gesture. The rejected are wished good luck on their way. A man in the crowd shouts in fury at the casual dismissal. Laurier steps forward, her polite expression hardening. A terrifying pressure suddenly erupts from her small frame. Her eyes begin to glow with a cold, white light. She tells them to leave now, or be removed by force. The angry men are paralyzed with pure, undiluted fear. One stumbles backward and falls, his face pale. They scramble away, fleeing the intense, menacing aura. Hawk watches them go, a slight smirk playing on his lips. This outburst just saved them a bit of time. He turns his attention to the remaining few. He notes the three most promising finalists. Hibiscus, a swordswoman with fiery red hair. Olive, a calm dog-man mercenary. And Basil, a powerfully built and confident man. He leads them into the lavish mansion for the second test. Basil looks around, his eyes wide with amazement at the wealth. Hibiscus, in contrast, clicks her tongue in clear contempt. Hawk brings them into a grand dining room. An incredible feast is laid out across the table. He tells them their test is simply to eat the food. Basil lets out a joyful roar at the sight. Olive smiles politely, understanding the gesture. Hibiscus looks annoyed but agrees to the meal. Soon, all three are eating the luxurious food. Basil eats with pure, unrestrained delight. Olive savors each bite with a happy, peaceful expression. Even the cynical Hibiscus seems to be eating contentedly. From the side, Hawk and Laurier observe them all in silence. In the middle of their meal, Hawk stands up. He apologizes for interrupting them, but it is time to move on to the final verdict. Hibiscus lets out an exasperated sigh. He instructs the three to follow him from the room. In a formal chamber, he prepares his judgment. He looks to the strongman. "Basil, you're hired." Basil grins widely, clenching his fists in excitement. He turns to the dogman. "Olive, you're hired." Olive bows his head, thanking him for the opportunity. Finally, he faces the red-haired woman. He looks her in the eye, his face unreadable. He calmly informs her that she is not hired. Her face drains of all color. Her mouth opens, but no sound comes out at first. "Wait," she finally cries out. "Why only me?" Hawk's gaze remains steady and unwavering. He explains he can't employ an escort, who so obviously radiates hatred for the rich. Her composure completely shatters into pieces. Tears stream down her face as she speaks. She tells him she has a sick sister who needs money for medicine. Her knees buckle, and she collapses to the floor. She bows her head, pressing it to the ground in desperation. She begs him, offering to do anything at all. Hawk is silent, watching her desperate plea unfold. He already knows her tragic story is true. Laurier's background check had confirmed everything. He thinks to himself that she's just like a story's heroine. If he rejects her here, he becomes the villain. With a long, troubled sigh, he finally relents. He tells her it's fine. He will hire her. She looks up, stunned, then whispers her thanks, a blush on her cheeks as she asks if she must now become his mistress. A tall, serious woman stands beside young Hawk. She introduces herself as Hibiscus Mary, his sister's new escort. His sister, shy and small, quietly asks if she's really for her. Hawk insists it's necessary for their family's honor. The little girl's face lights up in a grateful smile. A wave of relief washes over Hawk. His guards notice his good mood as they walk down the hall. He thinks to himself that the maids have been reduced. Finally, a small measure of peace from the women in the house. But that peace is shattered in an instant. A woman sits in his drawing room, introducing herself as Mint. She's from the Royal Academy. She's his new tutor. Hawk's face drains of all color. A new enemy. He had been so excited to finally learn magic, born with a rare affinity for the dark attribute. He pleaded with his father to find him a teacher, but he'd made one single, desperate request. As long as the tutor wasn't a woman, he would have taken anyone else. But she was the only dark magic user they could find, and now she sits before him, holding a teacup. Hawk slumps onto the opposite sofa, arms crossed in defiance. She asks if his parents are around. He explains curtly that his mother is gone, and his father is working. Mint smiles, remarking he's very mature for his age. He ignores the compliment and cuts straight to the point. He tells her to sign the contract. His beastman guard, Olive, brings the document forward. Mint's pen glides smoothly across the paper. "Very well," Hawk says, accepting the grim reality. She beams, saying she looks forward to teaching Gordo-kun. He replies with cold politeness, asking her to treat him well. Their first lesson begins outside in the garden. Mint explains the fundamentals of magic. The air itself contains a substance called element. A magician draws mana from this element into their body. The body then converts it to match their own aptitude. For her, that meant she could only use wind and dark magic. Hawk listens intently, stroking his chin in thought. He realizes element is nothing more than fuel. Mint closes her eyes, raising her hands. "Wind, blow," she whispers. "Blow gently." In the name of Mint, she commands it. A soft breeze begins to swirl around Hawk. His eyes go wide with astonishment. The wind lifts him effortlessly from the ground. For a moment, he simply floats, weightless and awestruck. After setting him down, Mint explains what she just did. To invoke magic, you need a spell. It's a combination of a trigger and words of intent. She presents a thick, ancient-looking book. It's her personal dark magic reference book from her school days. She proposes they study it together to unlock his potential. Hawk's interest is piqued. He gives a respectful, "Yes, sensei." But Mint's expression suddenly turns serious. She needs him to promise her something. He looks up, a hint of concern on his face. She points a finger at him, her voice firm. He must promise to never practice magic on his own. Hawk's shoulders slump as he agrees. She explains the danger of an uncontrolled spell. It could explode or run wild, hurting anyone nearby. Without an adult to stop it, the results could be a disaster. His guards, Basil and Olive, listen from a distance. Basil, a metal magician himself, is concerned. He asks what they should do if the magic gets out of control. Mint gives a nervous smile. Once it goes wild, she says, there is no stopping it. Later, Hawk finds himself on horseback. Basil, his bald escort, walks beside him. He notes the boy has been studying hard, but lacks exercise. Hawk scoffs, saying that's what he hired them for. Olive, the beast man, argues he needs to be strong enough to run. Basil's tone turns serious. What would Hawk do if his escorts were killed? Or worse, if they betrayed him? Hawk's jaw sets. He would use his magic to survive. A wide grin spreads across Basil's face. He promises he'll never betray the young master. Then he asks if Hawk plans to betray them. The boy just looks away, a small smile on his face. He thinks to himself that hiring these men was a good deal. But as they approach the mansion, a maid comes running. She breathlessly informs Hawk that he has a guest. A guest? For him? He asks who it is. The maid looks grave as she speaks. It's Miss Sunny Goldberg. The world seems to stop. Hawk stares in disbelief. He turns to Basil, his voice a choked whisper. She is his fiancée. Hawk stands in the grand hall, facing a small girl. Sunny, he says, acknowledging his fiancée. She looks up, flustered and timid. She asks if he is truly Hawk. He smirks, asking if she expected a monster. He remembers this is a political marriage to save her father. He bluntly tells her she must be disappointed he's alive. She hesitates, then offers him a small jar. A get-well gift. Potpourri she made herself. He reluctantly accepts it. From his window, he watches her carriage depart. He thinks to himself he never wanted a wife. He needs a way to break the engagement. A strange, new idea begins to form. He summons his guards, Basil and Olive. He announces he wants to visit a slave market. Basil freezes, asking if he's serious. He warns it is a grim place, full of despair. Hawk is unmoved. They set out for the city. They arrive in a dark alley, before a barred gate. Olive, the wolfman, tells him this is the last chance to turn back. Hawk refuses. He says they came for a reason. Inside, the air is thick with misery. Olive lifts the boy onto his shoulders for a better view. Hawk's eyes scan the pathetic figures in the cages. He spots a defiant cat girl, glaring from the shadows. He smirks, noting her slave heroine appearance. Then he turns away, dismissing her completely. I still don't want you, he says coldly. Instead, he points to a different cage entirely, the one holding a huge, tiger-striped beastman. The merchants stare in disbelief at his choice. Back at the mansion, the tiger beastman stands before them. Hawk, still on Olive's shoulders, asks for his name. The beastman growls it. Cresson! Well then, Cresson, Hawk begins calmly. You are now my slave, bodyguard number 3. You will protect me, even if it kills you. A low, furious sound rips from Crescent's throat. He throws his head back and lets out a primal roar. His voice echoes through the grand hall. I swear I will kill you one day. In the quiet of a stable, a bald man grooms a horse. The work is meticulous, routine, and unending. He stares into the distance with a heavy, unspoken sigh. Another day, another chore far from his dreams. He remembers the shouting, the frustration at the Adventurers Guild. Don't you have any better requests? He had pleaded. Something like dragon slaying. The guild clerk had looked at him with tired eyes. Fancy requests like dragon slaying are for S-rankers, he'd explained. The clerk's patience was wearing thin. Give me a break, he'd snapped. Stop daydreaming. The man had quietly wondered if that's why people quit, because their dreams were broken. The clerk's final words were a quiet, pitying blow. I've never seen anyone in their 40s still stuck in B rank. But then a new offer appeared on the counter. A job with a perfect reward, but likely many applicants. Are you going to give up on this one too? The clerk asked. He walks down a grim city street, his choice made. He sees the faces of the destitute huddled in the alley. His hand tightens around the job request tucked in his belt. This ain't a joke, he thinks. I won't end up like them. Now, in the present, he reflects on that day. He thought his new client, Hawk, would be a monster. But the rumors were all wrong. The kid was so decent, he thinks, rubbing his head. He has a steady income, delicious meals, and work he enjoys. He owes it all to the young master. I need to apologize to Bokan when he comes back. Just then, he hears voices approaching the stable. It's Hawk, riding on a dark-furred man's shoulders. Beside them walks a towering, tiger-striped beastman. Just got another muscle man, Bokan? The stable hand jokes. Hawk explains he went to get a, quote, normal escort. The stable hand smiles, thinking Hawk is far from a normal 8-year-old. Hawk just shrugs. I'm just a kid who grew up this way. The group turns their gaze toward the stable. The tiger man, Crescent, stares intently at the horses inside. Hawk notices his hunger. Oi, Crescent, I can prepare food for you. Crescent huffs. For a rich guy, you sure are stingy. His eyes gleam. I'm sure taking 1 or 2 horses won't hurt. The stable hand's blood runs cold. He plants his feet, his face a mask of fury. Don't you even try, he roars. I'll kill you. Hawk tilts his head. Well, they're not your horses, though. The stable hand scratches his head, instantly apologetic. Sorry, Bokan. It's just a figure of speech. The group leaves him, heading towards the mansion. The quiet, wolf-like man, Olive, walks with them. He's a former soldier, strong but with a distant gaze. Others whisper about his empty, creepy look like a puppet. But Olive is lost in his own thoughts. He can't figure out why Hawk hired him in the first place. Later, steam fills the air of a grand bathhouse. Hawk sinks into the water, stretching out with a blissful sigh. Crescent leans back, thrilled. Having a bath this big is the best. He says it reminds him of the hot springs in his hometown. Hawk perks up, musing about a vacation to the east. Olive's voice cuts through the calm. They'll kill you. If you go with Crescent, a slave from the east, they'll kill you. Hawk simply says, then Crescent can stay here. Crescent suddenly erupts. Why do you guys get to enjoy all this? Hawk gives him a deadpan look. You do know that you're a slave, right? There's a moment of stunned silence. Then Hawk slaps his own forehead. Ah, that's right. I'm a slave right now. Crescent sighs, exasperated. Your attitude is so lax that I totally forgot. Hawk turns to Olive, a small smile on his face. You really are a strange one. Olive looks away, quietly admitting something to himself, this time spent in the mansion. It's slightly more enjoyable. A faint feeling begins to stir in his chest. A feeling in a heart that had been hollow for over a decade. After the bath, Hawk happily gulps down a drink from a small bottle. Crescent, now wearing an apron, eyes the bottle with suspicion. What's with that weird color? He asks. Is it poison? Olive thinks to himself that he's underestimated this world. He never imagined they'd have strawberry and coffee milk here. Crescent looks intrigued. Ooh, Is that so? Hawk laughs. It's just fruit juice, and it's delicious. He offers the bottle. If you're so interested, why don't you try? Crescent shrinks back. I'm a slave, right? Olive grabs his shoulder. Give it up. This is just who Boken is. As they walk down the hall, the stable hand appears. Boken, he says with a smile, dinner is ready. Hawk beams. Perfect. Let's go to the dining room. On the way, he turns to his companions. By the way, are there any foods you guys can't eat? Crescent stares at him, completely bewildered. He grabs his head. Do you even realize you're a slave owner? Hawk just laughs, continuing on his way. Sunlight streams into a lavish bedroom as the curtains part. The maid, Laurier, has arrived to wake her young master. She announces that morning has come for Hawk. The boy sits up in bed, still groggy from sleep. Laurier informs him a magnificent breakfast awaits. He tells her he can change his own clothes today. She agrees, her footsteps echoing down the empty hall. At the dining table, Hawk's father, Eagle, is ecstatic to see him. He pulls his son into a bone-crushing hug. He exclaims that seeing Hawk's cute face gives him all his energy. From a nearby doorway, a young girl named Mary peeks out. She quietly wishes her brother good morning. Then she turns to her father, her voice trembling as she greets him. Eagle's face instantly twists into a mask of pure rage. He roars that her miserable face will ruin the meal. Who said you could call me father? He bellows. Mary shrinks back, her head bowed low in shame. But Hawk calmly turns and greets her by name. He then faces his father with a startlingly steady gaze. He explains that mistreating family damages one's public image. Eagle sputters, shouting that Mary isn't even his real child. Hawk gives a small, knowing smile. That's exactly why. He suggests if his father must complain about something, he should spend that energy cherishing Hawk instead. Just like that, the storm passes. Eagle's anger melts away. He beams with pride, patting Hawk's head. His mind jumps to the boy's future at the Royal Academy. He declares it a vital step to becoming a true nobleman. Later, Hawk walks with Laurier down a grand hallway. He thinks to himself that he ought to return his father's favor. Laurier watches him, her mind drifting to her original mission. The plan she arrived with had been so simple. She'd arrange for the boy to have an accident on the stairs. Then she would eliminate the grieving father. She would stage it as a suicide. Mission complete. But this new Hawk is not the boy she came here to kill. He's different now, making her wonder if he's an imposter. She stops, turning to him with a slight smirk. She says if, by some miracle, he actually became a decent person, then that would be something worth welcoming. She turns her back, walking away down the hall. Because killing, she says over her shoulder, is not something I like to do. Hawk walks alone through the grand halls of the academy. His maid's parting words still echo in his mind. He lets out a small, tired sigh. His thoughts drift back to a time long before this one. Two men sit at their desks, bathed in the glow of computer screens. One of them complains about stories where protagonists always suffer. He wishes he could just be reincarnated as a rich kid with no problems. The other man, his former self, simply laughs in agreement. The memory dissolves, and he is a child again. He stands beside his father, gazing up at an enormous building. The Royal Academy looms before them like a fortress. Hawk tries to sound confident, telling his father he'll be fine, but his father nervously asks if he wants to use the back door to enroll. Hawk declines, and they proceed toward the entrance. At the reception desk, a clerk confirms his identity. Hawk Gordo, dark attribute, the clerk says, directing him to a room. The formal atmosphere makes him strangely nervous. He stands before a pair of large, imposing doors. But as he waits, a different scene plays out in his head. Another boy entirely stands before three stern examiners. An examiner shouts in shock, unable to identify the boy's magic. Another muses that he might be the legendary 12th attribute user. The first man scoffs, calling it a fairy tale. He declares the boy a complete failure, with no aptitude. A young boy with dark hair collapses to his knees. He whispers in disbelief, "I have no aptitude?" His father screams in denial, demanding they examine him again. But the judgment is already spreading among the powerful. The eldest son of Duke Zero is a failure. The boy is violently dragged away by his own enraged father. Hawk watches the all-too-familiar prologue play out. He knows this story by heart. This boy, Vanity Zero, is the true protagonist of this world. And Hawk knows his own part in this pre-written tale. He is the snobby classmate who bullies the hero. A fat kid with a bad personality, a classic mid-boss. He is destined for a simple, humiliating defeat. With a bitter smirk, he accepts his role as a clown. His thoughts snap back to the present moment. His own father is right there, weeping with joy. He pulls Hawk into a tight, suffocating hug. He loudly promises to donate a fortune, ensuring his son will never fail. Life at the academy begins, and Hawk finds himself completely alone. He sits on a bench, reflecting that reincarnation couldn't change his introverted soul. Suddenly, a group of smug students surrounds him. The leader taunts him, sneering about the Goldie Company. He says Hawk's father simply bought his son's place in the academy. Hawk's face twists in distress. He thinks to himself that this was bound to happen. He knows he can't just fight them, not when they're nobles. As the boys grow angrier at his silence, a new voice cuts in. A young man and a woman arrive on the scene. The lead bully freezes, realizing he's face to face with the prince. The prince just smiles, reminding everyone that all students are equal here. Hawk watches them, his expression one of pure annoyance. The bullies fall over themselves to apologize profusely. This is Prince Pickles Branston and his fiancée, Rosa Zero. She asks Hawk if he's all right, her voice filled with genuine concern. The prince insists they drop the formalities and just become friends. Later, as school ends, Hawk walks down the grand steps. His beastmen retainers are waiting for him by the carriage. His fierce tiger guardian, Gao, asks if he was bullied. He growls that a good punch would sort them out. Hawk shakes his head, asking for a quick detour on the way home. That night, he sits at his desk, utterly determined. He decides he must take matters into his own hands. He pulls out a book on creating magical tools. He recalls his professor's lesson on enchanted items. For someone with his dark attribute, a tool of stealth is possible. He focuses his power, extending a hand forward. In a brilliant flash of light, a small crystal materializes. He stares, completely shocked that it actually worked. He carefully sets the powerful new gem into a silver band. A stealth watch, he thinks with a smirk, could be very convenient. He decides to test it immediately on his guardian, Gao. He activates the watch and creeps up behind the powerful tiger. He is completely unnoticed. The stealth is perfect. He joyfully lunges forward and grabs Gao's huge, fluffy tail. Gao yelps in surprise, whipping around. He asks his young master just what he thinks he's doing. Hawk, still burying his face in the fur, asks how he was discovered. Gao calmly explains the very obvious flaw in his plan. Hiding your presence doesn't work if you physically touch someone. A look of dawning realization slowly crosses Hawk's face. A new day begins at a downtown general store. Hawk tells the shopkeeper he needs a small gem, one that can fit perfectly inside his watch. After paying, his eyes fall on a dusty ancient book. The owner explains it was his grandfather's. Since he can't read, he offers it to Hawk for free. Hawk shrugs and says he'll take that one too. Later, he arrives at the Grand Royal Academy. He overhears two students, Prince Zero and his sister Rosa. The prince asks about her search for non-attribute magic. Rosa looks defeated. She couldn't find anything. Hawk smirks to himself. It's time to make his move. He steps forward, casually mentioning number 0. The prince and Rosa freeze, their eyes wide with shock. Hawk feigns ignorance, acting surprised they don't know. He asks if they've read the old version of history. Rosa gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. She explains that the original version was destroyed long ago. It is a forbidden secret, known only to the highest nobility. The prince eyes him suspiciously, asking if Hawk possesses it. Hawk lets out a loud laugh, calling it a good joke. He tries to leave, but Rosa desperately begs him to wait. They gather later in a secret room, sealed by magic. The air is thick with tension as guards stand watch. Hawk places the old, worn book on the polished table. The siblings stare in utter disbelief. It's the real lost history of their nation. Hawk admits he got it from a shop, as a throwaway. The prince looks deeply troubled by this impossible revelation. The book tells a history that contradicts everything they know. Hawk offers the dangerous text to them. The prince refuses, citing the immense risk to his family. But Rosa's eyes burn with desperate resolve. She declares she will do anything to help her brother. With a steady hand, she reaches out and takes the book. Walking back to his dorm, Hawk looks completely drained. He made powerful connections but feels a deep unease. He absently reaches out, touching Gao's fluffy tail. The beastman grumbles, telling him to stop. Hawk apologizes, his mind still reeling. So much had happened. A young boy named Hawk wanders a sunlit market. He clutches a paper bag and a single apple. The sights and sounds feel strangely familiar. He sees another boy watching him from the shadows. Later, Hawk sits alone on a quiet academy bench. 2 paper bags are placed softly beside him. A cheerful voice calls out, "Yo, Van Kun." It's Hawk-kun, a boy in a smart school uniform. Van smiles, greeting Hawk-kun in return. They both remark on the strange coincidence. Van advises him to keep his bags close. Hawk-kun agrees, a serene smile on his face. Van says he has to go and bids him farewell. "Yeah, later," Hawk-kun replies, watching him leave. Hawk-kun sits alone again on the bench. His massive, tiger-like father stands guard nearby. As Van walks down a corridor, his expression turns pensive. He is stopped by a girl with dark hair. It's Rosa, a duke's daughter. Her eyes are serious. She tells him she needs his cooperation. Her brother has been expelled from the family. To save him, she needs the help of Hawk-sama. Van feigns surprise, his mouth slightly agape. He asks what someone like him could possibly do. Rosa's smile becomes sly and confident. She confesses a new craving for jewelry and artworks, an interest she insists she's never had before. Her gaze is sharp, her hidden meaning clear. Of course, she isn't asking him to work for free. Van's face hardens as he listens. She mentions the Gordo Trading Company by name, a company that can procure the items she desires. Van looks at her, his expression now calm. I see. He understands exactly what she is asking of him. The painful story of her family clicks into place. Her brother was branded a failure for having no magic. She pictures him kneeling, stripped of his title. Their mother was punished for defending him. Now they live in poverty, exiled from their world. They have no idea how to survive as commoners. Rosa continues, explaining her own difficult position. She needs a collaborator who can move freely. Her father's men are watching her every move. Another student, a prince, steps forward. He vows to use his power to protect Vanity-kun. But Rosa is still worried about her father's company. She knows it will be under scrutiny anyway. Van stands silently, a drop of sweat on his brow. He finally grasps the entire dangerous plot. A faint, resigned smile touches his lips. It seems he'll have to explain the situation and get his approval. With his decision made, he leaves the academy. He arrives at the Grand Gordo Trading Company headquarters. He thinks wryly that he's secured some powerful connections. An old man with a large white beard smiles warmly. Hawk-chan, he says, I have important things to discuss. This isn't the reaction Hawk expected. His grandfather sits at his desk, his expression serious. He tells Hawk to explain himself, so Hawk lays out the entire scheme. Lady Rosa will buy cheap art at inflated prices. The company will divert the extra profit to her brother. He argues that gaining favor with nobles has future benefits. His grandfather listens, hand on his chin, in deep thought. He reminds Hawk the company has always remained neutral. Getting involved with nobles is a huge risk. He reluctantly gives his permission, but he gives Hawk a stern warning. He is never to put himself in danger. Hawk bows, thanking him for his trust. Suddenly, the old man's stern face breaks. He's shocked Hawk brought in a connection this big. He bursts into a fit of joyous, booming laughter. He pulls Hawk into a fierce, proud hug. As expected of my Hawk-chan, you're a genius. Hawk smiles, glad to have made him so happy. His grandfather pats his head, his tone growing serious again. He warns that nobles are like monstrous creatures. You never know from where they'll bite you. Hawk smirks, telling him he'll keep it in mind. Then, his expression turns grave. He asks his grandfather not to hesitate to abandon him. He doesn't want to cause trouble for the company. His grandfather just pulls him into another hug. "You silly!" He reveals they have plans to flee the country if needed. Because Hawk, he says, is their #1 treasure. Overcome with emotion, Hawk thinks of his past life. He died alone, never thinking of his parents. He resolves to cherish this new family properly. After giving his approval, Hawk retreats into the shadows. That night, he stands before the small house where the boy lives. He raises his hands, his mouth set in a firm line. He chants a ward, a spell of protection. "O darkness, shield this house from all malice." A deep pulse of energy flows from his hands. A faint smile touches his lips. He thinks to himself that magic is truly convenient. With this, he can keep unwanted eyes away from the boy. The training begins under the watchful eye of his retainers. The courtyard echoes with the clash of wood on wood. A massive tigerman roars with laughter. He tells the young boy, Van, that he's not bad at all. Van, panting and soaked in sweat, begs for another match. He screams that he's not done yet. He shouts that he will get stronger, strong enough to protect his mother. From a window above, Hawk watches the scene unfold. A bitter thought crosses his mind. Training? He questions if he is really jealous of a 10-year-old child. After being reincarnated, he was supposed to have found peace. But he admits he has always resented blessed people, and Van's bright, dazzling presence is hard on his eyes. It's enough to ruin the quiet life he tried to build. He feels himself walking a long, lonely path. His loyal retainers feel like distant silhouettes. A thought surfaces that they will all regret knowing him one day. His loyal retainer, Oliver, finds him staring into space. He asks his young master why he has such a long face. Hawk just looks away, muttering that it is nothing. Alone again, he feels a cold spread from his chest. The darkness in his heart reacts to the world around him. It overflows, threatening to consume him. This is the price of his power as a dark magician. He thinks that at this rate, he could never be the protagonist. And then, a desperate, impossible wish takes hold. If only Van could use his nullification magic to erase this cursed darkness from his heart. The thought is agonizing. He accepts that his childhood dreams are over. He resigns himself to being just an ugly supporting character. He is not the hero of this story, and he never will be.